Example 2. If these two triangles are congruent, determine whether the following statements are true or false. So let's match up what we got. If XYZ is congruent to WMN, let's match up what we know. That means angle X has to be congruent to angle W. Angle Y, we'll use different colors because I like colors. Angle Y has to be congruent to angle M. And angle Z has to be congruent to angle N. Okay? So, let's look at the sides. XY would have to be congruent to WM. Sorry about my son yelling in the background. I guess that's what happens when you don't get what you want for dinner. So you got XY is congruent to WM. And then YZ has to be congruent to MN. I think I hear my daughter coming to give me something. Oh, Lord. And then the last one has to be XZ is congruent to WN. Now, I've matched these all up. So, why did I do that? Well, I can tell if these statements work. And I can actually just do this by using the angles. I'm hoping I still have a voice by the end of this video, but who knows? I might all of a sudden stop talking. Sorry. So I know that angle Y has to match up with M, right? So let's look at A. Does Y match up with M? Nope. So that is not a true statement based on what we know already. X has to go with W, Y has to go with M, Z has to go with N. That's not the case here. So do the second one. Does Z match up with N? Yes. Does X match up with W? Yes. Does Y match up with M? Yes. So that is another true statement. That's another way we could have written that. Okay. Let's change colors here just because I'm feeling adventurous. So let's look at, does Y go with N? No. Okay, Y does not go with N, so that's false. Y goes with M. This is not matched up properly. And then you've got Z going with N, Z going, in a minute, honey. Okay. Z going, thank you for the ants on a log, I appreciate it. Oh my gosh, it's, okay, anyway, so there's peanut butter all over the desk. 6-year-olds. So Z is congruent to N, that's true. Y is congruent to M, that's true. And X is congruent to W, that's true, so that is another true statement. So that's another way for us to indicate the congruent statement. So B and D are other ways that we could have written the first statement. Remember, every triangle has 6 different names. It just depends. When you match them up, if you name it a certain way, you got to name the other congruent triangle the same. Okay, so moving right along. Let's match up some spots here, just because that's what we want to do right now. So, use the given figure and information to name 3 pairs of congruent angles and 3 pairs of congruent sides. So, angle E, it says triangle EHG is congruent to KFG. No, that's not KFC. We're not talking about chicken. EHG is congruent to KFG. So, E is congruent to K, and we're going to mark it. Okay. H is congruent to F. But then look what we have here. We got some vertical angles here. We got G is congruent to G. I'm not going to write G is congruent to G. If I say G, I don't know which angle I'm talking about. So I'm going to use my vertical angles. I have to use the 3-letter name here. So I have to call this HGE. Or you could call it EGH. And I'll call this one FGK. Or KGF. I can't say angle G because if I say angle G, you don't know if I'm talking about that angle, that angle, that angle, or that angle. You have to be specific. So let's look at the sides. I might actually make it. So EH is congruent to KF. Remember to put your segment symbol. It's important. We're indicating segments because we're doing congruence. If it were just an equal sign, we wouldn't have that. EH is congruent to FG. Sorry, HG is congruent to FG. Just making sure you're paying attention. So HG is congruent to FG. And then EH and KG. No, that's not Kevin Garnett. So, sorry, EG is congruent to KG. That's an E, by the way. That's Stoughton speak for E. But I'll rewrite it so you can see it a little bit better. Okay. So EG is congruent to KG. And we've marked all of our congruences. Any questions? Good, because you wouldn't be able to ask them anyway. I can't hear you. You're just talking to a computer right now. All right, so let's move to the next example. All right, this one's fun. I say that to get you excited, but that's not going to work. So ABC is congruent to CDA. So let's do our sides first. I'm going to do sides first this time. So AB is congruent to CD. And BC is congruent to DA. And we have this wonderful thing here called the reflexive property when they share a side. And AC is congruent to CA. So there's our sides. So let's do our angles. What's going to present here with the angles is that you're going to notice that the angles are going to actually have, we're going to have to name them the interior angles, or not the interiors, but the ones in the corners here where the diagonal is with 3 letters. Because you got the same problem. I can't say angle A, because then I don't know if you're talking about that one, or the whole thing. So let's do the easy ones first. What is angle B congruent to? Is angle D. Okay? That concludes the easy segment for the evening. So now let's look at the angles that we do have. This one right here is angle BAC. Do you see that? BAC or CAB, cab. If you like taxis, call it cab. Doesn't matter to me. BAC. So if I go BAC, I need to go DCA. That's going to be this guy right here. Okay, DCA. So BAC is congruent to DCA or ACD, whichever one you want to use. And then for our last one, we want to get this angle and tackle this one here. And you know what? I just made a mistake. Again, just checking to make sure you're paying attention. 2 arcs. Not arcs like Noah's Ark, just arcs. Not that that's important. So I have this angle, which is BCA. And my children yelling in the background again. And then CAD. Or DAC. It doesn't matter. And so now we've marked all of these congruent. So that's how you mark the corresponding parts of congruent triangles. Okay?